Vince Vega. Hey, John, question on chicken feed. How do you feed your chickens in the winter versus summer? Have you or do you ferment grain for them? And if so, how does that work in your environment? So I don't do anything different. I give them a little bit more when they stop laying eggs or when they slow down, I give them a little bit more. Now, this year we've noticed it more. And I know everybody's on about the feed thing. And there does seem to be something really with that feed thing. But I don't feed from Tractor Supply. I don't feed Purina. So that's not what's doing it here. You are hearing that they are now using like mRNA stuff on a lot of the corn and the wheat. I don't know how, I haven't unraveled that thread. I think that's a whole lot of factors. But I mean, we had colder weather for longer time than we normally do here. And I started watching just like everybody else. I watched every piece of content that was out there about this feed thing because I wanted to have good answers for people. I feel like a lot of people having the conversation though, we're just having the conversation because you're just dumb if you're buying your feed from Tractor Supply because it costs
twice
30, 40, 50% more at Tractor Supply, right? It's all under a pretty store. You can go there and they've got candles and all kinds of bullshit and little toy dinosaurs for your kids. And it's not dusty and dirty and have forklifts zipping around like the co-ops do. If you're feeding chickens from Tractor Supply, you have pet chickens, right? Or you're just you have more money than you know what to fucking do with. So at the same time, in watching those, there was a lot of videos about how to make your own chicken feed. And the one thing I added immediately was black oil sunflower seeds. All of our chickens, within a couple days, started laying a lot more eggs. We have so many eggs right now, we don't even know what to do with them. I've probably got 300 eggs sitting in the kitchen right now. Mm-hmm. And that's just this week. So the black oil sunflower, but at the same time, it warmed up, right? So, and it's sunnier outside. Like we're back in t-shirts for the most part. Now today's weird. It was 35. Yesterday it was like 70 degrees, thunderstorms and tornadoes yesterday. Today it's 35 degrees and it's supposed to be 27 degrees tonight. So I've got my stock tank heaters plugged back in so that there's not ice in them tomorrow morning so they're not frozen. But I also, because we feed scratch, right? We used to give scratch. We would only feed years ago, we would only feed layer pellet. And then at night we would just give scratch, kind of shake it around to get them back into the pen to close them up. And they'd come running for it. I feed more scratch now than layer pellet. And the eggs we got way more eggs than we can pot. I use very little layer pellet. And it used to be that layer pellet costs more than scratch. Now scratch costs more. But the most of what's in the scratch is corn. So we started getting whole corn just to test it out. And I've got one coop right now that I've totally taken off of scratch. And all I give that coop is whole corn, a little bit of layer pellet, and black oil sunflower seeds. The eggs are through the roof, like all of them. And even the ones that I'm not doing that with, right? I'm still giving them scratch. Same thing. So I don't see a detriment from using the whole corn. Now, why do you want to use the whole corn? Because it's cheaper. The whole corn costs way less. And I was looking at, we were looking at a grist mill and a grain mill, and Jason Rappaport's got one that you can get them at off Walmart.com. You can get them from a lot of places. They're a couple $100. And he uses it because he uses his corn for other things, right? He does some fermenting, some grain alcohol stuff, and then he feeds all that shit to the pigs afterwards. So I was thinking I needed a grain mill, right? So I started reading the reviews, and this thing's okay, but it's fucking really dirty. To get a good grain mill, you're a couple grand. So we're looking at hammer mills, and whether we want a standalone motor or we want to run it off PTO off of a tractor. And then this lady said, you don't have to do any of that shit in one of these videos. She's like, they have gizzards. They eat rocks. The rocks grind up all the stuff, and then they get the nutrients. So I'm like, okay, let's try it. Now, you can buy super sacks. A super sack, I think they're like 4x4x4 feet. I think
he said it's 1,500 pounds.
Yes, it's pushing close to a ton. It's 1,500 pounds. And we don't have to pick those up, right? I don't have to unload 20 bags, 50-pound bags. I don't have to have the man time to do that, the man labor. They put it in the truck with a forklift or a spike or whatever, and then we pull it out of the truck. and then we can take it and disperse it in 5-gallon buckets where we can stage it. We stage everything in 35-gallon brute force Rubbermaid trash cans. They're great. So it's just about time and physical labor. But you save a shit ton. It's less than a third of the price to buy it
I was really impressed when he told me how much he paid.
uncracked versus cracked corn bags. So that's what we've been doing. But I don't really do a lot different in this. In the summer, we will feed less because they just eat less. Like right now, everything's dead out here. It's cold. So there's nothing out. There's no bugs for them to eat. There's no locusts flying around, no crickets, no worms out here. There's no little lizards they're eating. There's just nothing here. So when I put feed down, they come running like crazy, and it's like a free-for-all, right? It's like a mosh pit. In the summer, though, when the grass comes up and the bugs come in, they're eating seed heads, they're eating weeds, they're eating bugs. Like you'll put feed down, and by the time I'm done out there 20, 30 minutes later, there's still feed sitting there. There's not even a chicken interested in eating the feed. So I don't have to feed as much in the summer. So I guess that's the answer to the question there. Chickens, winter versus summer. Ferment. So I have fermented. I always forget to do it. I'll have some, and then I forget to do it. I don't see a benefit to it. I know a lot of people say that it's great, and they eat less, and they eat less because it fills them up more because there's so much water in there. I see people say both sides of it. Fodder, right? That's another thing you should be looking at, if nothing else, just for yourself, because they say let's say dry pelletized rolled feed, right? The animal, they say an animal, and I don't know how they know this, but they say the animal can absorb 18% of the nutrients out of a dried pelletized feed. But when you feed them the actual sprouts, they can absorb 78% of the nutrients. I don't know. It seems like it's probably logical to me. If you take a broccoli plant and you eat it, you're getting part of this. Whereas if you sprout it, you're getting all of the plant, right? So the nutrients are just denser. And that's basically what fodder is it sprouts. You can do it in trays. You can do the same thing in your kitchen in mason jars, and you're just sprouting this stuff. And you can eat it, or you can mix it into things. Same thing. You can do black oil sunflower. We did barley. We've done all kinds of things. And there's a bucket, look up bucket system, look up trays, and you're just taking the black oil sunflower seeds and you're sprouting them. Now, we gave it to our animals, and they'd pick at it, but they weren't it wasn't a super treat for them, right? And what that tells me is your animals aren't hungry enough. If you want to feed sprouts like that or fodder, you probably need to remove other things or just introduce it a little at a time. And they say when you feed them that, they eat a lot less and they're really healthy. I don't know. We did it for a year or so, and they would eat it, but we never did it long enough or remove the other things, right? So I guess that's it. Brian Fraser. John, if you were to grow black snakes for release on the property for rattlesnake eradication and other things, what size till release, and would outdoor style help their real life knowledge for success? Or are snakes fucking snakes with or without Rubbermaid drawer life? Okay, so black snakes. Black snakes, I guess there's some black snakes that eat other snakes. There are black king snakes, which definitely eat other snakes. Racers, I guess racers do eat other snakes too. I wouldn't fuck with it, man. I don't fucking know, Brian. I wouldn't mess with it. If you really want snakes on your property, you're going to have a density problem eventually, probably. Like they're going to eat most of the other animals, and they're going to eat each other, and then it's just going to start over again. Birds eat snakes if they see them. Snakes will go under debris. If you want a good snake habitat, you want debris. If we want to catch snakes, we put down pieces of plywood. We used to put 4x8 sheets of plywood down, or roofing tin, or anything like that. It's easier to deal with when they're smaller, so cut them into like 2x4 sheets of plywood.
Cardboard too.
But cardboard breaks down really fast. But we would go out, when we go reptile hunting, we go out to where there were old construction sites or debris, or where people have put stuff over the years, and we just go back through there and just turn them over, and we would find all kinds of stuff. Mouse, you'd find a baby rattlesnake and a couple king snakes and a mouse nest under the same, board. We would go out in San Diego where the freeway overpasses were, and you'd have these little islands in the middle there, like that were a few acres. There was always debris there, and we would go through there and literally pull 5-gallon buckets of bluebellies and alligator lizards out of there.
Yep.
And we'd bring them back to the house and just let them go. We had lizards all over the place.
And tons of garter snakes.
Garter snakes, yeah. We would go out in these ponds on the sides of the freeway where the water would run off. And in the summer, they would evaporate down. And I would take the boys out every year. And we would just get in the water. And garter snakes, there's hundreds of them. Literally, the water was just moving with them. And we would just come up underneath them. You can kind of squat down and walk across the pond. And you just grab the snake and pull it up. And I would put them in my shirt and just fold them up. We'd come back with 100 fucking garter snakes easily.
We had aquarium tanks full of fucking garter snakes, feeding them goldfish and shit.
Yeah, but as far as snakes to eat rattlesnakes, you could clean your property up and make it uninviting to the snake, or you could. I mean, if the snakes are there, the snakes are going to be there. You could totally release them. It just seems like a lot more fucking hassle than it's worth. If we're worried about rattlesnakes, mow around your house, keep your grass short, don't have any debris. The snakes aren't going to be there. If they are, you're going to see them.
What about having chickens?
Chickens will eat the shit out of snakes. Like, chickens eat fucking everything. I guarantee you there's no fucking snakes up where the dogs and chickens are. Every now and then, and we haven't seen it for years, we'd have a big gray rat snake. They call them chicken snakes. Big gray rat snake up in there because it was just too big for the chickens. And usually the snake would go in at night, and we'd go to pull eggs the next morning, and there'd be a snake there. But that hasn't happened.
Surprise.
Hasn't happened in years since we've had the dogs up there. But yeah, chickens will eat snakes. They'll literally just peck, and eat them backwards, or peck them till they stop fucking striking and just swallow the whole thing whole.
You know those grates that people put down so cows can't cross over?
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered if there was something like that for snakes. Like you could line your property with them.
No, snakes are going to be there. We've, when we started doing all the dirt work in the back for the pond, we didn't really see snakes, but then we put that erosion control matting down, which is basically like this
Fine.
1x1 mesh, of this like green thin plastic, but it's got straw all woven through it. And the next day there was like 3 or 4 fucking black snakes out there. Stuck. And then the next day there was snakes. Like, we were freeing snakes and finding dead snakes for weeks out there. So there was a ton of them here. We just never saw them. We've never seen a rattlesnake I've never seen a rattlesnake in Tennessee, and we've gone looking for them. They're here. Definitely
that's like
here.
one of the things.
We've seen copperheads and cottonmouths. And we've actually had a copperhead on the property, and we've seen a cottonmouth on the property, both out towards the front by the drainage ditch. And we have water all over here. I haven't seen any venomous animals here. I'm sure they're here.
And Baxter got bit by something.
Yeah, Baxter got bit, but Baxter's a fucking asshole, and I don't think he was even on our property. He was.
No, I don't think
he
so.
was getting over.
I think he was over there.
Yeah, and that's Jason's dog now.
Have fun with that.
So. Another Brian Fraser question. John and Amanda, have you heard of or tried glasses that block bad UV from phone, tablet, electronics? You're talking about the screen. Most of them have a setting on it.
So my glasses have blue light blocking already. I had that put on there so that I didn't have to worry about it, because I'm going to wear my glasses until I literally go to bed. But I know a lot of people talk about that being better for, like, when you lay down to go to sleep.
Circadian rhythm and stuff.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan told someone the other day about a supplement that completely stopped his vision loss at 46. It has remained the same for half a decade since starting it daily.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that. And he says, thanks, John and Amanda and SW Crew. Jeremy Wilson, thank you. Is Jeremy Wilson the Corvette dude? Where's the fanny pack?
No.
That's not Jeremy Wilson? Because who's that guy?
Charles.
Charles Wilson.
I was gonna say, you just described every Corvette, dude.
Jeremy, no, the new Corvettes are fucking nice,
They
man.
are. I like 'em.
We were right there at the
Yeah,
Corvette
when we were in
Museum a couple
Louisville.
weeks ago.
I just drove past it last weekend, and I wanted to go back to take a look at it.
Man, they like those cars right now are pure sex. Like it's
Thanks for answering the generator question. Shifting a bit, what are your must-haves for onboard vehicle gear? Where are you going?
that's vast.
Fuel. We've got recovery gear. We've got a winch, at least on the front, preferably the back also. We've got lighting. We have a lot of cargo. I have tie downs all the time. Tie downs, ratchet straps. We carry them in every vehicle. Even when we're not planned, there are so many times we have had no intention of needing them and always need them. And then clothing. We've always got extra clothing for different seasons. We've always got jackets. I've always got rain gear. I've always got gloves.
Blankets.
I always have some tools. I never have enough tools for the vehicles, but like tools for other things. Yeah, I guess we have blankets. A lot of times we'll
blankets.
carry.
I've got food. I've got water.
We've never used them to stay warm, but we've used like moving blankets and stuff all the time to keep shit from scratching it up. Stuff we buy.
When we went to it was when we went to Louisville. I used that red plaid blanket to bring home my butterflies.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's your vehicle, right? Carry as much shit as you can. If you have to go if you're going out to dinner and you got to take a couple extra people, just pull some of the shit out, just put it back. I mean, that's literally why I have a truck. Like, that's why we have SUVs. Like, our seats in the 4Runner, I don't think we've ever had any people in the back seat other than maybe once or twice. Those seats are flat. It's just a big cargo area that is full of shit. I mean, if you look at the videos on the compound, off the compound videos at the 4Runner, those back seats are never up. They always just have cargo on them all the time.
The only time I ever put the seats up is if we're going somewhere that I'm going to valet, because I have a bunch of stuff behind my seat. And since I'm so short, I sit really close to the steering wheel. So I put the seat up and move all that stuff from the floorboard onto the seat so that the valet, who is bound to be way taller than me, can move the seat back so that they can move the car.
Yeah. Kenneth Wilcox, what is some of your most used favorite gym equipment? I recently ordered a rack, bench, landmine, and some multi-use cable machines. I use everything. Like, there's days when I don't want to work out, so I go out and literally use every single machine in the morning. But I have gym equipment that's like a real gym. Like, I have a gym that's better than some gyms people pay to go to. But I also have what's that dual stack? I have independent arm dual stack machine in there. It's not free motion.
I think it is free motion.
I have a machine that will replace a ton of that stuff, right? And if you look at, we just bought a Rogue rack. We got a rack from Rogue, and I got a bunch of attachments that will replace most of a gym also if you want to work out in that manner. What rack did you buy, man? And you say you got cables. Did you add some like cables to that rack? Because they have a pulley cable thing, so you could do like lat pulls and low rows and buys and, you know, tricep press downs and stuff. They have an attachment that goes on the Rogue rack, and I know Titan makes one and all the other companies that do that stuff. But they're not as good. Like, they're just not as good as a real cable machine. They're definitely not as good as the free motion. So I didn't buy those because I already had stuff that would do them. I think it's just important to work out. And if you do the same thing over and over and over, you get kind of used to it and it gets easier, and then your accomplishment slows down. Just work out, man. That's the one thing everybody can do, especially if you're listening to us. You're a business owner, or you're into homesteading, or you're a prepper or survival person. That's the most lacking thing. Like, if you took all of the people that consider themselves to be preppers and you just looked at them as a whole, and we took everybody and we rated everybody in shape, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst, you're not going to have very many people in the 1, 2s, and 3s. There's going to be very few. And there's going to be a small group there's going to be some in the 4, 5, and 6, but most of them, they couldn't push their car if it got stuck, right? They couldn't get it out. They couldn't walk someplace. It is free, and they don't fucking do it. I get it. It's not comfortable. I don't like to do pull-ups. I don't like to do push-ups. That push-ups and pull-ups do more for me than most of the fucking weights in there, right? Mirror muscles. My arms are fucking huge. I'm smoked every time I go out here and do farm work, when I have to move sacks of corn and sacks of feed, or fucking drive fence posts, or dig holes to set gate poles. I'm fucking beat to shit with that stuff. Moving stuff with a shovel, mucking out all that stuff that is what you're going to really do if society ever collapses. People aren't ready for that shit. They just are not.
It's the activity part of it.
Yeah, it really is. Recently, a rack line man. So just make sure you use that shit. Most gym equipment is just expensive clothes drying racks.
I told Joy that the other day. I said, it's a good thing. We were talking about having too many clothes. And I said, it's a good thing we don't have a treadmill in our room like a lot of people do, because it would literally just be another catch-all. It would just fucking hold clothes.
Well, everything in this building is a catch-all. I mean, look at my office. Look at your workspace. Everything has shit set on it all over the place. And like, we'll come in from the weekend and I'll pull everything out, or whenever we come back to the shop from being out of the shop for a little while, I'll bring the things I need in and just set them on one of those wire racks right there. And inevitably, it'll be in Cody's way the next morning. So he'll put it over on the table. And I'll have shit I'm looking for that's just where he's just stacked all my shit that's in his
It's
way.
like Jenga.
And I'll just like, fuck it. It's easier to go buy a new one. And eventually I'll clean it out. And I'm like, holy shit, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. So, but the gym equipment thing, man, that's awesome. I wish you would have told us what you got, so I knew what we're talking about. I got a landmine. I got a bunch of stuff that goes on this rack here. I also got the independent arms, the 50 cal trolleys that they make. Cool. Good for you, man. Irish USMC vet. What time is it?
5 to
11:50.
It's 11. Let's go eat. I got to pee anyways.